Hey, ¿qué pasa, chicos y chicas? Muy buenas y bienvenidos. Y bueno, vamos a iniciar un nuevo juego, ¿de acuerdo? Llamado Sherlock Holmes, The Crime of Punishment, es decir, cazadores de crímenes. Y bueno, vamos a darle comienzo a este título, ¿de acuerdo? Está bastante baratillo, bueno, está barato y está gratis en Epic Games, así que podéis pasar a buscarlo, ¿vale? Y nada, vamos a darle comienzo a lo que es esta nueva serie que quiero hacer, ¿de acuerdo? Vamos a ver si todo se escucha bien. Bueno, se escucha bien, no. Vamos a ver que todo vaya, que salga a la perfección. Y nada, vamos a bajar un poquito el volumen para que no se escuche tan alto. Y pues nada, vamos a ver qué nos cuenta el juego. Está en inglés, ¿vale? Porque tiene los subtítulos puestos en castellano. Así que nada, vamos a dar el comienzo y vamos a resolver nuestro primer misterio. Para el que no lo sepa, Sherlock Holmes es un detective del año 1800 y algo, no me acuerdo los lindantes. Y pues nada, es un detective que prevé las cosas antes de pasar y eso, bueno, ya lo iremos revisando poco a poco. Es básicamente un personaje ficticio, ¿de acuerdo? No es real. Así que nada, vamos a darle para allá.
Holmes!
Cogemos el control. No sé qué está haciendo Holmes ahora mismo.
Holmes, will you stop that? You are utterly mad.
A ver si lo podemos pararlo. Tiene un buen oído, para lo que sepáis. Tiene muy buen oído.
Stop, Holmes!
Is that you, Watson?
Yes, of course it is. And you almost killed me.
Nonsense. I was aiming for the vases.
Blindfolded?
Watson, quiet, please. I'm trying to concentrate. Ah, Lestrade. What is it this time?
He can see me. Well, here it is, and it's a good one, Mr. Holmes. A gentleman by the name of Peter Carey, also known as Black Peter, has been murdered.
A sailor, most probably.
What happened here?
Oh, Mr. Holmes, how could you?
It's the only exercise I've had all week. A grateful client from Limoges sent me a vase collection this morning. I couldn't think of a better use for it.
You're out of your mind.
I missed 4 out of 10.
Given you were blindfolded, that was very good. Can I have a try?
Am I the only sane one here?
I suppose that Watson is right, Inspector. A little brain work would be preferable now. Do please tell us more about Black Peter.
Peter Carey, born in 1845 and 50 years old. An ambitious sort, he achieved much success in seal and whale hunting around Scandinavia. Retired in 1884 with a small fortune. He invested his money in a property called Woodman's Lee, near Forest Row in Sussex. It was where he lived for 6 years, and where he was found dead yesterday.
Has the investigation already begun?
Yes and no. In fact, this crime is so mysterious that I would prefer you to join me down there.
Give me half an hour to prepare, Inspector.
Take your time and join me there. I have to go through the yard first. The Merry Men struck again.
What have they done this time?
They robbed a powder reserve. I'll meet you at Woodman's Lee, Mr. Holmes.
I should help Mrs. Hudson here. I also have several appointments that I must keep this afternoon.
I shall go alone then.
Okay. Vale, esto es...
I cannot leave yet. I am not finished here.
Tenemos primera persona, ¿no? Bastante. Esto voy a ir probando un poco, así que ya sé qué hay que hacer. Luego aquí están los...
This is where I keep my post. My archive. I can always consult with it if needed.
Vale. Vale, vamos a ponernos... Marinero... Este es ahí. Sí, sí. Así, me gusta. Luego, mientras... Vale, no funciona. Por lo menos vamos a lo antes. No sé si será mundo abierto o no, no lo sé. Vamos a investigar el escenario del crimen.
Mr. Holmes, I'm over here. Come on.
El juego se ve bastante bien, ¿vale? O sea, no es un juego que necesite muchos gráficos, ¿de acuerdo? A ver qué nos dice.
Inspector Lestrade, when will you remove my husband's body? It's sacrilegious to leave him here like this.
As soon as we can, Mrs. Carey, I assure you. Allow me to introduce you to Mr. Sherlock Holmes. He's a detective. No doubt you've heard of him. I'll wait for you in front of the cabin, Mr. Holmes.
My condolences, Mrs. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
No sé qué hay que hacer. Aquí. Vale, hay que revisar algo más. Vale, perfecto, falta algo más.
Madam, can you tell me if you saw or heard anything unusual upon the night of the murder?
At 2 o'clock in the morning, I heard a terrible scream. But I thought nothing of it then. He would scream all the time when he was drunk.
Do you remember at what time you found your husband's body?
In the morning, at around 7 o'clock, I noticed the cabin door was open, but I didn't go in to take a look, for I knew my husband would not have liked it. At around 10 o'clock, I dared to glance in through the door and... oh dear.
Was your husband accustomed to receiving visitors?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I mean, he didn't really have many friends. He lived quite an isolated life here, after his retirement.
Can you please tell me what occurred on the evening of the murder?
Well, Peter got drunk in the evening. He was in such a terrible temper. Usually whenever that happened, he'd stay all night drinking in his cabin before passing out.
Joder.
You have indeed suffered a great loss, Mrs. Carey. Nevertheless, I believe it will be less of a burden for you soon.
Yes, life with Peter was never easy, but he was still my husband.
He was different, wasn't he, when you first met him upon your return from Plymouth?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. Oh my goodness, but how do you know about that?
You undertook a pilgrimage to the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela when you were young. That much is evident from the rosary in your hand. The shortest route for the pilgrim from England to Spain is from Plymouth. I believe that you met Peter Carey as a young sailor there, and you married him soon afterwards.
That is indeed what happened, Mr. Holmes. How extraordinary.
Thank you, madam. These footprints appear to be quite large.
Tiene, pues es un poder.
Peter Carey's body is inside the cabin. We took care not to touch anything.
Ahora que encontramos en el cuerpo de este pobre señor.
The door is locked.
Wait just a moment, Mr. Holmes, and I'll open it. I locked it yesterday to ensure that no one should enter the cabin and tamper with the evidence.
Ah, good thinking.
Hello, hello, hello.
What is it, Lestrade?
It seems to me that someone has tried to force it, Mr. Holmes.
Let me see. These scratches are fresh.
El jardinero.
You're right. Someone tried to force open the door.
I swear these scratches were not here yesterday.
Our mysterious visitor came here last night.
Well, he's not the man for the job. This lock is not a difficult one.
Perhaps he did not have the right tool.
No está el cadáver, ¿verdad? Sí, está
What
el
a
cadáver.
terrible way to die.
Vamos a activar.
The weapon fully penetrated the body. The force of the blow was immense. Peter Carey was fully dressed. He was not caught by surprise. It is possible that he knew his murderer. This man is in his 50s, yet he still looks quite strong. Peter Carey was impaled to the wall by a whaling harpoon. The pattern of the blood stain indicates that the notebook was not lying on the floor prior to the crime, but it was dropped into the pool of blood after the death of Peter Carey. This blood is from the pool underneath the dead body. This wooden handle is plain and solid. Peter Carey tried to defend himself with this knife, but he did not succeed.
Cadáver examinado. Vamos a examinar lo que es. Es esto. A ver. Ahora. Parece que hubo dos.
Someone drank from this glass recently. The initials PC have been crudely burned. A sailor's work.
Una petaca es básicamente donde se guardaba antes el tabaco y todo eso.
This aroma is familiar, but to recognize it, I must construct my associations in one picture.
Ruta y nuevo los elementos. Ah, entiendo. Hasta que coincide, por lo que entiendo, Ahí. Es un barco. Luego es un río. Entonces, ¿la hoja qué es? Vale, vale, vale. Vale, es un bar. Lo que puedo ver es un barco. Esto podría ser el timón. Voy a bajar un poco el...
Yes, this is a coarse tobacco, quite strong and very popular among sailors. Someone drank from this glass recently. Rum, a sailor's drink. It seems that Captain Carey was enjoying a drink before he met his death. Hammerfest.
Pues nada.
Mr. Holmes,
Ajá.
have you finished inspecting the crime scene?
Falta lo más.
The Sea Unicorn. She was the ship that Peter Carey commanded.
Hay pisadas por aquí, pero no sé. No sé por qué no los detecto.
JHN are probably the initials of the owner of this notebook. These abbreviations mean something, but what?
El cadáver está en el reporte, pero no, todavía no puede ser. Por el allanamiento, algo tendré ese cadáver. Algo hay en esa...
Ha! Someone was here yesterday. They attempted to force the door to gain entry.
Vamos a hablar con él.
Well, Mr. Holmes, what do you think?
I think that we are lucky,
And why is that?
because of last night's attempted break-in.
Oof, you've lost me.
It is very probable that whoever came here hoped to find the door open. They tried to force it with a knife blade, but they failed. What will they do? Why, return tonight, when they will be better prepared.
Aha! So what do you propose?
We shall remain on the outside, near the window, where we stand the best chance of catching sight of our visitor. Well, gentlemen, ready your pistols. We have a long night ahead of us.
Vale, voy a avisarle a él.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Holmes. Usted... Requiere un objeto, aquí se requiere una lupa. Abandona el escenario.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Holmes.
I cannot leave yet. I am not finished here.
Tendré que hablar con la chica. Hacerle que estaremos en su casa esta noche preparando una emboscada. Y me voy a preguntar por qué hace ahí el cuaderno, que es tan importante el cuaderno. Entonces, no.
Is this your husband's tobacco pouch?
I'm not sure. It might be, but he hadn't smoked in a very long time.
Thank you, madam.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Holmes. Venga, tengo que decir Mr. Holmes. Bien. Vale, ¿qué nos dicen ya? Aquí.
We need to find a good place for an ambush. Perhaps behind Carey's cabin, near the window. We need to find a good place for an ambush. Perhaps behind Carey's cabin, near the window.
16 que nos ponemos por aquí escondidos.
It seems that the garden was well maintained.
Pues continuamos.
This place is not covered with dust, like the rest of the shelf. An object was taken from here. It was larger than a book, a box or a small chest, perhaps. The tooth of a sperm whale, probably from one of Peter Carey's catches. Hammer. The ship's logs of the Sea Unicorn for the years 1878 to 1884. Peter Carey was her captain.
El jardín no puede ser. Todavía no me hago mucho a lo que es.
The murder weapon was probably taken from this rack.
Pues voy a ver dónde está. Voy a pedirle si viene. A ver si me puedo abrir la cabaña. Hacer la emboscada. Porque es de la cabaña. Exacto.
The garden is very large and well maintained. Do you employ someone to look after it?
It is true, there is a lot of work, but my husband took care of it himself.
Your husband's private papers, do you know where they are?
There is a small tin box, barely larger than a book. He kept his papers there. It should be somewhere in his cabin.
Thank you, madam.
Bien su cabaña, ¿sabes? Puede que se me escape algo por aquí.
Old navigation instruments, nothing interesting. Peter Carey's boots. They look to be a size 8.
Y ahora vamos a las huellas que están. Aquí. Sí, ahora que tengo las botas.
These boots don't match the footprints.
Esta no son. Voy a decir a la señora que la bota y que está hemos encontrado sus botas. Hemos encontrado la bolsa, que no tiene nada.
Who could do such a thing? My poor husband.
Muy queridos.
These foot...
Son bastantes grandes. Susto me ha dado eso. Te lo juro. Voy a cogerte los zapatos y me permites. Es un baúl. Esto es un baúl. Vale, tarea preparada. ¿No puedo echar hacia atrás? Ahora, gracias. Coge la tan desaparecida. Esto no tiene relación. Pero sin jardinero. Esto es del intento de allanamiento tampoco. Otras pistas y se van a poner un poco. Intento de quieto. Espérate, clavado a la pared, nada. Entonces, ¿por qué entraron? Es lo que yo estoy... Es la caja. ¿Y la caja dónde está? No lo sé. Me gustan estos juegos porque son de investigación, ¿vale? Y no sé dónde coño puede estar metido. Creo que sí. Puede que esté aquí metido, no sé. Voy a hablar con este, a ver si me dice.
We need to find a good place for an ambush. Perhaps behind Carey's cabin, near the window.
Esto está buscando una forma, construcción de ventana. Lo que estoy viendo es que no hay ninguna...
This looks like the perfect hiding place.
Perfecto. Vamos a ver si lo pillamos.
Shh! Did you hear that?
Es el chaval.
There's someone there. I'm gonna collar him.
I'll be right behind you.
Police! Hold it right there.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Holmes. Sí, creo que es el jardinero.
All right, my fine fellow. Who are you and what are you doing here?
You're detectives, I suppose. You imagine that I'm connected with the death of Captain Carey. I assure you I'm innocent.
Innocent? And what are you doing in his cabin?
Shall I tell you? You came to retrieve what you had lost after killing Peter Carey, but we were here waiting for you.
What is your name?
John Hopley Nelligan, but I didn't...
Do you deny that you came here yesterday?
No, but I... Yes, it's just that I couldn't...
I'm tired of this. Off we go to the yard. Tomorrow, I'll see that you're put in front of the judge.
What? But you can't! I'm not... It's a terrible mistake!
Enough! You can explain all of that to the judge. You're coming with me to the yard.
But...
In light of recent events, it seems evident that your coming here was unnecessary. All the same, I'm very grateful to you, Mr. Holmes.
You are welcome, Inspector, but please don't be too hard on our young fellow. I would like to question him tomorrow morning.
No es él. No sé qué... A ver, creo que es A ver, yo, vamos a hablar seriamente. Vamos a ver si me lo toco, ¿vale? Ah, joder, la gorra. Varios callos, ¿por qué?
Does this notebook belong to you?
Yes. But where did you find it? I did not know... I thought I'd lost it at the hotel.
What do these abbreviations mean?
Oh, no. I beg you, I can't. If I told you, it would only make things worse.
But I will find out eventually, Mr. Nelligan. The sea knife was found near Carey's body. Tell me, Mr. Nelligan, did Mr. Carey try to defend himself or to attack you with it?
I don't know. I didn't kill anyone.
Well, I will see you soon, young man.
Please, let me go. I'm innocent.
I need to stage a reconstruction. I am sure that Watson would be happy to oblige.
At your service, Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Holmes?
Esto es los sitios de evidencia. Esto es como la morgue.
Locked. Locked.
Todavía con la fuerza.
Mr. Holmes?
Mientras que vayamos cargando. No hay dos sitios. Aquí hay más. Ah, bueno, vamos en casa.
Are you serious?
No, but we do need to clarify what happened on the night of Black Peter's murder.
A reenactment, then? Is something bothering you?
The sailor's knife, Watson. Why was it on the floor?
Peter Carey attempted to defend himself?
It is possible, but if that is the case, then it alters many things.
I don't quite follow you.
Tell me, my friend, what is the animal closest to man, morphologically, I mean?
Ah, I see what you're getting at, Holmes. You asked me that once before. On the Ripper case, I believe. Do you want to slit some more pigs' throats?
No.
Thank goodness for that.
I wish to impale one with a harpoon.
Wonderful.
Watson, let us pay a visit to our butcher friend in Whitechapel. We require the carcass of a well-fed pig.
And the harpoon?
One of the harpoons on the wall of Black Peter's cabin should do quite nicely.
Vale, vamos a revisar. ¿De acuerdo?
I need to take a harpoon with me.
Ok. Pues tendremos que ir a Woodmansley. Y de Woodmansley tendremos que ir con el arpón. Vale, entonces pasa una especie de denuncia. Vale, perfecto. Ah, el ordenador de...
That should do it. Now I am ready for the experiment.
Perfecto, veo si sigue la serie, si sigue aquí.
Who could do such a thing?
Sigue aquí.
My poor husband.
Y nada, pues vamos a ver ese experimento. Vamos a matar gorrinos. Sí, los halcones. Y el... ¿Hemos llegado? Vamos para allá.
Well, here we are in the preparation room. I can't say that I like the smell of it much. What do you intend to do?
To indulge myself in a little experiment. The challenge of lancing a pig's carcass with a heavy harpoon.
A little experiment?
Stand aside, Watson. This might be dangerous. I am not well practiced in this exercise. Yet.
Uy, qué mal va.
Holmes, you should aim for the mark
Dime.
in order to perform the most reliable test.
Ah, no me deja. Ah, sí, se puede tirar. Pero...
Holmes, I can't believe it. Did you just miss?
Sí. Se puede hacer otro.
Holmes, you should try to aim.
Esto va a ser un poquito más complicado de... Ish. Más hacia arriba.
Holmes, I can't believe it. Did you just...
Cállate.
Holmes, you should try to aim better and throw as hard as you can.
Oh, joder, no le he dado. Ahora. Está divertido.
This is the best possible result that I could get. Do you see, Watson? Throwing a harpoon and pinning a man to a wall requires either exceptional strength and training or diabolical luck.
If it was luck, then it was a chance in 1,000 that night.
Well, yes. Let us leave now.
All right. But before we go, I suppose I'll have to pay for all these carcasses you've happily mangled.
Very well, but please hurry.
Of course.
Y lo voy a pagar, ¿eh? Vale, vamos a Scotland Yard, que es donde está el comisario de policía. Vamos con el chaval.
What am I doing here? I've done nothing wrong.
Pues nada, vamos a casa. Lo dicho. Vamos a esta. Walmart.
could do such a thing?
Pues nada,
My poor husband.
pues nada, sí, nos vamos a casa. El juego se ve súper bien la relación con la persona, me encanta. Back Street, creo que era.
Good gracious, you caught someone. At least now you have a suspect. Good gracious, you caught someone. At least now you have a suspect.
A map of London and the surrounding area. It could be useful.
Hay algo que se me escapa con el chico.
At your service, Mr. Holmes.
Locked.
Mr. Holmes? Mr. Holmes?
What am I doing here? I've done nothing wrong.
These are the suspect's belongings. From R. Dawson. To my friend and partner, 1883. Dawson. I've seen this name before. Perhaps my archive holds the answer. A handkerchief with the initials J.H.N. A pocket knife. It was used to force the door of Peter Carey's cabin.
Vamos a examinar otra vez.
The police seized this valuable ring from you. Whose is it?
I didn't steal it from anyone. It has always belonged to me.
The ring's date of engraving is many years ago. You would have been a child then, hardly in any position to receive such an item from a partner. So, Mr. Nelligan, who is the true owner of the ring?
The ring is mine.
Seleccione la respuesta correcta. Vale.
So, Mr. Nelligan, who is the true owner of the ring?
The ring is mine.
No, Mr. Nelligan. I believe that the ring had belonged to your father.
Oh, but how do you know?
The jacket you are wearing is made of an expensive fabric that only a man of exceptional wealth could afford. You do not seem to me to be a rich man, Mr. Nelligan. Furthermore, the garment is ill-fitting. It is quite clear that it belonged to someone else, most probably your father. With your father gone and taking with him the family's wealth, as a little boy you had to find yourself a manual job, and it was most probably cleaning fish. You cut your hands often while working. I can tell from the scars.
I'm speechless, Mr. Holmes. It all happened exactly as you say.
Well, I will see you soon, young man.
No me caso. Tendré que decirle esto ya, hombre.
These are the suspect's belongings.
Quiero
The
que
notebook that we found on Peter Carey's cabin floor. These are...
Si la señora Especio. La pared. Es que el... O sea, pueden... Porque es un lanzamiento afortunado. Es que puede que haya sido un lanzamiento muy afortunado. O que... No sé, es que no lo he sentido. Un lanzamiento muy afortunado, no sé. Me parece como muy injusto.
Who could do such a
No
thing?
puedo hablar todavía.
My poor husband.
No, voy a hablar con mi compañero. Es que no sé, un lanzamiento me parece... Dos... Espera un momento, voy a ver las webs un momento. Sí. Tiene la misma distancia, así que a por eso. Mi intención, por favor, ha sido un lanzamiento afortunado. No. Vuelvo aquí dentro. Quiero ir hacia atrás. Vale. Voy a hablar con mi gran compañero. A ver qué me dice. No me parece sospechoso, ni me parece el asesino. Hemos llegado a casa.
Good gracious, you caught someone. At least now you have a suspect.
Hay que averiguar qué significan los... Voy a ir a los archivos a ver qué es lo que encontramos.
What am I doing here? I've done nothing wrong.
Mr. Holmes?
Locked. These are the suspect's belongings. A pocket knife.
Voy a ir a la carnicería. Es que no encuentro nada para verlo.
At your service, Mr. Holmes. Mr. Holmes? Mr. Holmes?
Vale, ver si encuentran algo en la casa. A ver. No lo entiendo.
The ship's logs of the...
Es potente. Pero esto no me va a aportar nada. No se me ocurre nada, chicos. Después de haber hablado con el chico otra vez.
Who could do such a thing? My poor husband.
No lo sé. No se me ocurre nada. Pero nada. Estoy revisando todo y no se me ocurre absolutamente nada, chicos. El mapa me dice que no... Todavía no lo he visto, pero es que no lo entiendo.
Dundee. It's a whaling map.
Vale. El mapa ballenero. Ok. Nos corres muy poco, te aviso.
Who could do such a thing? My poor husband.
Vamos a ver dónde... A ver. Ahora hay más cosas. Vale, quizá... Es que yo estoy pensando que puede ser una... ¿Cómo? Voy a ir a hablar con el chiquillo. A ver si me dice.
What am I doing? What am I doing here? I've done nothing wrong.
Good gracious, you caught someone. At least now you have a suspect.
That is not the one. That is not.
Perfecto. Quiebra el fondo de la investigación.
Here it is. Now I begin to understand that young man's story, but I am still unclear as to what connects him with the murder. It is time to ask him. My archive. I can always consult with it if needed.
Nos vamos a Scotland Yard. Entramos la más me hace muy raro hablar contigo, compañero mío.
I have heard the story of Dawson and Nelligan, the West Country bankers.
Yes, Joshua Nelligan was my father.
I am aware that it had a bad ending. When the bank failed, it ruined half the families of Cornwall, whereupon Joshua Nelligan disappeared.
My father was under extraordinary pressure. Dawson had retired. I was only 10 years of age at the time, but it was still old enough to feel the shame that befell our family. My father was convinced that he could pay off all his debts if the creditors gave him time. He set sail for Hammerfest in Norway in his small yacht just a few days before an arrest warrant was issued. He left my mother a list of the securities he was taking. No word was ever heard from him again. We believe that his vessel went down, taking with it everyone and everything on board.
Thank you for the story, Mr. Nelligan. At last, we are making some progress. Interesting. Joshua Nelligan and Peter Carey were both at sea in Norway. There is definitely some connection between Peter Carey and Joshua Nelligan's disappearance.
Bueno, no, así es la vida de un... ¿no? De un policía. Está arriba los zapatos del tío. Vamos a examinar los diarios.
1883. That's the one I need. This is the crew list of the Sea Unicorn. This is the crew list of the Sea Unicorn. Log notes for June. Nothing unusual. Log notes for June. Nothing unusual. Log notes for July. Nothing special. Log notes for June. Log notes for July. Log notes for August. These pages have been torn away. Canadian Pacific Railway, CPR, a torn piece from a bond certificate. I have seen this abbreviation somewhere very recently. There are 3 ways of discovering what happened in August of 1883 aboard the Sea Unicorn. The first 2 of these will require speaking with a dead man. The last would be to locate vital witnesses, the sailors involved in this whale hunt campaign.
Uno de sus muchachos lo puede matar.
Who could do such a thing? My poor husband.
No se ve ni los wings. Yo iré al puerto de Londres, pero bueno.
Something new, Watson. I have the list of sailors who were aboard the Sea Unicorn. We shall soon learn what happened to Nelligan's father. I have only to find them. Let us hope they are still working at the harbour.
I think that if you pretend you're from Scotland Yard...
I doubt it, Watson. And really, I would prefer that all of this remains quiet for now. But I have another solution. I'll call in the specialist.
And who might they be?
The secret police division of Baker Street.
Ah, you mean young Wiggins and his gang?
Yes. Believe me, you'll receive more useful assistance from these little urchins than from a dozen yard detectives. Those children are everywhere. They see and hear everything, and they are cunning. All they lack is organization. I'll summon them.
How will you do that?
There is always a watch beneath our window. I have only to call him. Brave Toby, the best nose in the British Empire.
Wiggins, could you come upstairs, please?
At your service, Mr. Holmes.
Wiggins, I need you to track down certain people for me. I'll give you a list. You can read, can't you?
Big Oliver from our gang. He can, because his father is the coachman of a famous lawyer.
Fascinating. Here is the list of sailors.
Sailors? Easy. Just got to look where the rum and the red lights are.
Sorry to trouble you, Mr. Holmes, but the inspector asks that you come to the station as soon as possible.
Thank you. I'll be there shortly.
Vamos a ver qué pasa, a que sale el niño. ¿Cuánto cuestas?
Mr. Holmes, I'm glad to see you.
As always. What happened?
We have a new suspect, Liam Hurtley. I'm thinking that this case will be resolved very quickly now.
Interesting. Pray tell.
Well, the constable that I left at Woodman's Lee noticed a suspicious individual prowling around during the night.
Do you have him here?
Yes. He refuses to speak with us, but we'll make him talk.
Let us hope so.
Ah, yes, and one more thing. The constable told me that at the time of his arrest, the fellow was writing a letter.
Do you have it?
Of course. It's in the evidence room, at your disposal. Admit that for once, Mr. Holmes, Scotland Yard is a step ahead of you, eh?
Breathtaking. These are the suspect's belongings. Liam Hurtley's old boots. They're a size 9.5. A pen. Nothing unusual about it. The stains are fresh. They can be removed with the proper chemicals.
Y miraría si las botas calzan.
These boots match the footprints exactly.
Ya te tengo. A comisaría. Llámanos rápidamente, por favor. Que vamos a atrapar al sujeto.
How is the investigation going, Mr. Holmes? Do you have any idea who the murderer is yet?
Voy a hablar con él. Y vamos a ver qué nos dice.
What am I doing here? I've done nothing wrong.
Please escort this suspect for interrogation.
Me confundí bien, lo siento.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sherlock Holmes. I would like to ask you a few questions.
I've already told the police that I've nothing to say. And you're not even part of the police.
Precisely, and considering your situation, it might be wise to speak with someone who is, shall we say, rather more neutral. You are a suspect in a murder case.
I know. Inspector Lestrade told me. It's ridiculous.
Could you at least tell me who you are, and exactly what happened that you should be brought here?
My name is Liam Hurtley. That I can tell you. But you're not getting any more than that.
Well, we shall see.
Voy a moverte un poquito. El juego tiene un gran detalle, te lo juro, me encanta. ¿Qué tienes? Compañero.
Tell me, Mr. Hurtley, what were you doing at Woodman's Lee?
Woodman's Lee? I've never been there.
The second pair of boots that you had with you when you were arrested perfectly match the footprints found near the cabin where Peter Carey was murdered.
Footprints? That's your proof? How many men have boots like mine? That doesn't make me a murderer.
Now that your presence at Woodman's Lee has been proven, would you care to explain it?
I don't remember. What would I be doing there anyway?
Por el... ¿O por el arpón?
Now that your presence at Woodman's Lee has been proven, would you care to explain it?
I don't remember. What would I be doing there anyway?
Because you are the gardener at Woodman's Lee.
I'm not. How did you...
I observed your hands. They told me that you work with the earth. Small fragments of plants snagged to your trousers indicate that you were mowing very recently. But the most obvious clue presented itself in the bird embroidered on your handkerchief. A crested tit, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, you got me. Yes, I am a gardener, and I went there to get my tools.
That's all for now.
What am I doing here? I've done nothing wrong.
How is the investigation going, Mr.
These are the suspect's belongings. I wonder if these are connected. No, that's not it. 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 Now we have the proof that Nelligan's papers were indeed here. It seems that they have vanished, however.
Puede ser, ok, estaba buscando los bonos. Que es lo que me se acerca a esto. No, si hay otro. Lo que me se acerca es esto. Perfecto. Voy a hablar con el chaval.
Please escort this suspect for interrogation.
Vale, porque hay una...
Tell me, Mr. Nelligan, what exactly were you hoping to find inside Peter Carey's cabin?
I was trying to find some information about my father.
No, estabas buscando... alguna cosa.
I assume you had another purpose, to retrieve the bond certificates. Am I correct?
Yes. I discovered some time ago that a few of the missing securities had reappeared on the London market. You can imagine my amazement. I spent months trying to find them, and at last I discovered that the original seller had been Captain Peter Carey. These papers, they belonged to my family, but I could not find them there.
That's all for now. Well, I will see you soon, young man.
I'm not saying another word.
What am I doing here?
How is the investigation going, Mr. Holmes?
Perfecto. Venga. Yo creo que es inocente. Y supongo que se conectaría. No. Entonces, esto sería con esto. Y es como que eso es una gran culpable. Devuélveme a la base, por favor. Yo creo que lo negan, porque si fue a buscar los papeles para sorprenderme y el en defensa, no sé, él al atacarlo, pues será o puedo ver a llegar realmente a conquistarlo y matarlo. Vamos a ver si a ver, acá sí, es inocente. A ver, yo no puedo sitio sorprenderme robar los bonos que hiciese. Se desconecta por completo. Si esto, bueno, si busco los bonos, se conecta aquí, pero no hay nada. chaval. El de niño. Aquí hay algo que fue, ¿qué es esto? Y es lo que automáticamente. Sí.
The case is solved. I am now ready to present the guilty party.
So tell me, who killed Black Peter?
It was John Nelligan, Inspector.
I thought as much, but I failed to see his motive.
Revenge, Inspector. Black Peter possessed the bond certificates that had belonged to Nelligan's father, and young Nelligan wished to retrieve them.
Well then, I'll arrest this Nelligan. I don't fancy his chances of getting out of prison after this.
I will accompany you, Inspector.
Vamos, el caso está resuelto. Espero.
You are guilty of the murder of Black Peter. Confess now, and your punishment may be more merciful.
No! I didn't kill him!
Your motive? The valuable securities that Peter Carey stole from your father. Carey refused to return the bond certificates, and then he threatened you. You were afraid, and in your panic, you took the harpoon and made your lucky throw.
But that's not true!
You're a liar, Mr. Nelligan. It's all over now.
The case is resolved, Inspector. I shall return to Baker Street.
Very well, Mr. Holmes. Goodbye for now.
Vamos. Acepta la cesión. Vale. Toma esto. A ver qué me dan. Vale, perfecto. Pues nada, chicos, este es el vídeo de hoy. Espero que os haya gustado. Y nada, nosotros nos vemos en otro capítulo más, ¿de acuerdo? Espero que os haya gustado. Y esto es todo, señores. Hasta luego.